We are counting down the days to RebelCon, and virtual passes are now available at an early bird discount of $200 off the normal ticket price. This virtual pass gets you live access to all general sessions with our expert keynote speakers, as well as links to view the sessions later. This deal will end soon, so get your RebelCon virtual passes now. Hit the QR code for more info or visit rebelcon.marketrebellion.com.
All right. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion on this Thursday morning. And you go back to yesterday, we had a pretty interesting day. We looked and saw the Dow make a really nice move to the upside, back over 34,000. We saw the NASDAQ make a nice move as well, recovered, got over 13,000. Both of which in the final 90 minutes or so started to give up some of what was looking like going to be maybe another decent day for the markets. We've had many of them over the last few weeks. Although the Dow did finish down about 170 points. As a matter of fact, the NASDAQ, which did struggle a little bit more than we were seeing out of the Dow, that actually finished down about 160 points. You actually factor in where they're both measured, and that's a pretty significant move for the NASDAQ. And the NASDAQ was under some pressure here and there, did have that final 90 minutes, though. That's when it really did shoot lower and not finishing on the lows of the day, but certainly in negative territory for both of the major indices, all three really. Crude still hanging around that 87 level. We've got natural gas still holding up right around a little over $9, right around $9.20, a pretty significant move over the last few weeks. And then you look at the 2-year, 10-year, not a whole lot going on there, but they are edging a little bit higher and a little bit higher every single day. So something to keep an eye on when you see the 2-year sitting there at 3.3 and you see the 10-year right around 2.9. They are making moves a little bit every single day to the upside. Bitcoin down about 2% or so, 23,300, getting off of that 24,000 level where it looked like we might be starting to establish a little support. Maybe not. Maybe that move is now penetrating well beneath that 24,000. Things do move very quickly there. We are looking at a volatility index just under 20 right now. So hanging right around, and that's been that slow, methodical move to the downside as well, and then flip-flopping back and forth across that 20 level. 42.7 million contracts trading yesterday. Another very, very busy day. And it's interesting to see that because I continually hear about how the volumes in the stock market are coming down, and yet we are seeing some nice lift in the derivatives markets, the options world where I sit, and it's been just steady. And we're looking at a pretty solid year already when you consider the fact we're averaging well over 40 million contracts per day all year long. That's something very strong. Communications under pressure early. It was names like Twitter and Snap and many others leading to the downside, almost a 2% move to the downside. Materials started to melt as we got throughout the day. It was names like U.S. Steel. You look over at Cliffs, also getting under some pressure. Nucor, add all of those to the list. We did get that turn, however, from energy. And we did turn higher and finished almost up about 1% yesterday. Chevron, Exxon, BP, it was Petrobras. A lot of those names definitely contributing to what we were seeing in energy. Technology, well, that was under pressure. We can see that just by looking at the NASDAQ itself. Names like Google and Netflix and, of course, Amazon all contributing there. Some of the consumer discretionary names down about 1% as well. Tesla, Amazon. We look over at Meta, the old Facebook, also under some pressure, pulling on the markets. We had Valero leading a little bit. Obviously, we talked about energy, and we said that was pretty strong. CBOE, my old stomping grounds, Chicago Board Options Exchange, had a very nice day yesterday as well, as did TJ Maxx, which finished the day strong. Then you look at Lilly and you look at Merck, and you get a pretty nice move to the upside from some of those healthcare names as well. Not all of them, especially if you look over at a Moderna leading to the downside. We also had those cruise ships. Now, they've been that back and forth, but we all know this. They are far closer to those 2020 lows than they are any other level. And that's where they just continue to be seeing, almost as if they're pinned down there right now. It's Carnival, it's Royal, it's Norwegian, all of which were under pressure yesterday. Throw in Dish, throw in Zoom, little Texas Instruments and Micron, just to throw a little semiconductors at you as well. And then over in the industrial space, Boeing, and 3M, all pulling on the markets to some degree. And that's why we were seeing, I think, in that final 90 minutes or so, just all the indices just starting to push to the downside at a pretty decent pace. So Thursday continues the earnings wave for retail. We continue to see this. It's been interesting from Walmart to Target to Home Depot and across the board. Obviously, we looked pretty decent in the pre-market. We were in positive territory. No big moves, but up about 50 points or so for the Dow. As soon as we hit that opening bell, things flipped. We were down about 50 points. Last I looked, we were down about 125 points for the Dow, down only about 30 points for the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ just kind of wavering around between red and green, mostly sitting in the red. But looking over at the Dow itself, definitely leading a little bit more down to the downside at this point in time. Now I look at the price of crude, $89.90, a little bit of a lift there, up about 1%. Natural gas, right around 940, up just a little bit more. I look over at Bitcoin, still hanging right around that level, call it 23,500 today, but very, very close to where yesterday's close was. I mentioned the 2-year and the 10-year. We did slip back a little bit from yesterday's levels, but not a whole heck of a lot of movement there. We are just under that 20 level for the volatility index, but that certainly is a level that's just bouncing either side of 20. So not a whole lot of movement right now in volatility, even on days where we'd expect to see maybe a little bit of a lift. We aren't seeing much of a lift at all. So energy, that did flip right out of the gate. We were strong. We got a little bit stronger in this first hour, up nearly 2%, call it 1.75% to the upside. Communications down about 0.5%, maybe a little bit more. Consumer discretion down about 0.5%. Look over at financials. Not doing a daggone thing, down about 0.25%. Really, a lot of the major sectors just kind of floating around in that area where they're not really too far off of where they were closed last night. Now, those meme stocks, we talk about them all the time. Bed Bath & Beyond certainly does stand out for us. We talk about volatility. Volatility works its way on the upside and the downside, just like beta. We talk about those things all the time. Well, you look at something like a Bed Bath & Beyond, and you just see some of the pressure that we are seeing in the upside squeeze moments and then that selling moments as well. Very, very volatile. I look over at BJ's. They did beat on the top and bottom, sticking with retail. Tapestry also beat on their earnings. So as we said, earnings season moves on in the retail area. What's really working today and what's a great number when you look at what they reported? How about Cisco? Cisco with a nice beat, up about 6% on a day where the rest of the market is getting pulled to the downside. We're seeing Cisco have a really, really nice, strong power move to the upside. Chuck Robbins was on TV earlier talking about exactly how things are going and the outlook, and it did sound very bullish from his perspective. You look at some of those beta energy names. I look at an APA, I look at Devon, I look at Valero, I look at Baker Hughes, all in positive territory as we're seeing with energy itself moving. Throw in the biggies like a Chevron as well. We're also seeing some nice moves out of some of the semiconductors. I look at Marvell, I look at Broadcom, Applied Materials, all having a nice move to the upside. What's not going to the upside? Moderna, again, to the downside. I'm looking at Walgreens Boots taking a little bit of a push to the downside. Those Chinese names, JD, PDD, Baidu, getting a little bit of a hit to the downside. Throw in Verizon, throw in Nike. You can see it is kind of an across-the-board move right now to the downside. Not a lot of huge moves to the downside, but we are certainly seeing some of that pressure to the downside, except for those big numbers from Chuck Robbins and what's going on over at Cisco. Very, very impressive. I got two unusuals, and there's a reason why I've got this first one. Coinbase trading right around $84 a share, right out of the gate. We had a buyer of a little over 12,000 of August 90 calls. Why is this so unusual? They are expecting a fairly significant move in an extremely short period of time. So I think that's worth at least pointing out. Those options were going for about $1. Now, there is so little time. People just have to have that understanding of the derivatives markets, how the pricing models work, and how that time frame, theta as it's called, is really working in a name like this. It would require a major move to the upside, call it basically about a 10% move to the upside in the next 48 hours for these to work. That's why I wanted to point this out and highlight. This is one where, quite honestly, I would probably be backing off of a little bit, but nonetheless, seeing some pretty interesting activity as we approach the expiration cycle for August. Now, secondly, I've got Hertz. trading a little over 2080, somewhere in that category, 2050 to 2080, 7,500 of the December 20 calls. Now, this is a pretty interesting one because, first of all, they're attacking right where the stock is at 20, right? And they are buying these for about $3. Why are they so expensive? First of all, they're an in-the-money call. Second of all, you're buying all that time premium to go all the way out to December. And by the way, they're also selling the December 25 strike calls. And that's interesting because they're selling twice as many to try to bring down that price. And whoever is the buyer is saying, hey, look, we think there's a move in front of us. We just don't think the stock's going to go up and through that 25. That's a risky trade just because of the fact that as it starts to approach, if it explodes to the upside, they are short twice as many as they own. So that's something that is a big risk, but they're trying to take down the risk of the cost. But you've got the risk of something big happening that really could change things, and concerns would definitely be starting to rise if that stock made a parabolic move at some point in time. Not saying it will, just a possibility. But those calls that they're buying right at the money, that definitely does stand out, and it's a pretty decent number, 7,500. I'm Pete Najarian. Have a great day. We're going to have the Rebels Edge today at 1 o'clock Eastern. John, myself, I'm going to be running all day. I got plans to go back over. I was asked to come back for football and doing a little bit with the Vikings and 49ers. So hopefully I'll see a few of the folks there. If not, I'll see you back here for the Rebels Edge at 1 p.m. Eastern. See you then.